The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday here, the 27th of August. It's been so long since we've gotten to do one, Corey. I've gotten my days mixed up here. I'm CJ. That's Corey. We know that for sure.
MSD.
You've gone through your withdrawals, and we're here to give you that sweet, sweet hit of MSD.
Hooked on MSD.
Getting you hooked on MSD since 2021. There's a lot.
While we do this today, just so you know.
You're going to be eating a bowl. That's our guy Zeke, who's been on the program before. That's his chili. I have not had it yet. I'm going to have it when we're done recording. As you're doing your live on-air kind of review, what do you got?
He's our official entrant for the annual chili feed.
Chef Zeke?
Chef Zeke?
Yeah. Chef Z? You think that's what he goes by?
Chef Boyar Z?
That, honestly, yes. That's...
Chef Boyar Zeke, he's in.
He's in. I think you should just yell at him from across the hall and let him know that.
Chef Boyar Zeke!
All right. Yeah, perfect. He knows. It's been established. It's into the ether, and we're good to go. It's a really busy week for high school sports because, Corey, they're happening. We've talked about practices beginning over the last couple of weeks and ramping up, and we have been putting together a project on our YouTube page that has taken up a lot of the time that we haven't been able to do a sports desk, but we both were like, all right, it's go time because we have games going on right now. And our first game on the broadcast schedule tonight, East Grand Forks and Wadena Deer Creek, is 7 o'clock pregame, 7:15 first serve in Section 8AA volleyball from the WDC gymnasium. And Corey, it's a rematch of the Section 8AA semifinal game from a season ago. So I expect this to be a good one between two teams that likely are going to try and be at the top of that Section 8AA bracket again come a couple months from now. But I mean, right now, when you look at the Wadena Deer Creek team and the East Grand Forks team, it, just on its surface, and sometimes it's always hard to tell in these early season games, should be a nice one tonight.
Two teams who had a really nice run a year ago. Obviously a little revenge in mind for East Grand Forks, playing in that section semifinal. As is always the case, Wadena Deer Creek doesn't shy away from a schedule. Their first two matches of the season are against a semifinalist and a finalist from a year ago in the section tournament. So it is, this new season started as hot basically as a season ago ended. Wolverines, the defending champions in the section. And this is how you're supposed to do it. Competitive teams compete early. You set the barometer for where you're at early. It sets the expectations early. There's a couple ways to do it, right? You can be Alabama and you can play East Wichita State University for the first 6 games of the year. Or you know what? We got Auburn week 1. Let's figure out where we are. And if we're not where we want to be, we know where the bar is. And if we are, let's show, or we can show everybody that we are the class yet again.
Yeah. I mean, even with the last couple of years, if it wasn't in the section, it was, last year, Wadena Deer Creek, I believe, had Albany on one of their first games of the season. A couple of years before was Pequot Lakes, who was last year's state champion, going at it, in the first week of the season. And, we both have talked with Coach Sue Volkman before about that. And it's kind of that philosophy of what you said. It's like, hey, let's play this team early and let's just see what are we don't need in her words, I'm sure she would say it this way, is we don't need those fluff matches to, you know what I mean? We could get that high record, but we don't know a lot about ourselves yet. And then by the time you figure it out, it might be too late to fix things, or you might you're in the swing of the season. It's hard to work on some things. And at least now it gives them plenty of time to know where they sit, what are the areas they need to improve on, and kind of where they go from there early in the season. And they have plenty of time to do that. So it's going to make it very fascinating for this game tonight. the East Grand Forks Green Wave, they played their first game last night of the season. They played Warren Alvarado Oslo last night in East Grand Forks. They got a 3.
Oh, is that how they pronounce it? Wow.
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 Yeah, that's how I would. But they end up getting a 3-0 victory yesterday. East Grand Forks was a good team a year ago. They were 23-7. I know we talked about they were a high seed. Wadena Deer Creek upset them in the section bracket a year ago. They had a 14-game winning streak in 2023 through the middle of their season that really kind of cemented them as a great team. Wadena Deer Creek did beat East Grand Forks 3-0 in the Section 8 AA semifinal game. I was at that game in DGF calling it, and it was 3-0, but those 3 sets were competitive, or at least those first 2 were anybody's guess in those matches. So this isn't like Wadena Deer Creek wiped the floor with them. This was they took care of business. They had a very nice game, but this was by no means a blowout. So I expect the same thing tonight. It's going to be a tightly contested matchup for Wadena Deer Creek, the Section 8 AA champions in 2023. They were the Park Region Conference champions a year ago. They were 22-11 last season. They were 8-0 in Section 8 AA throughout the regular season. So it'll be fascinating to see if they can stay undefeated in section play this year.
And CJ, high school sports, it's all about the kids. It's all about the schools. It's all about the communities, blah, 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 blah. You've done some state high school or state amateur baseball. Mm-hmm. It's kind of either, depending on your perspective, either put a cap on a year, the past year, or to kick off this new year. But no matter what, it is our first high school broadcast of the 24-25 school year. How you feeling? Are you excited? Like all of those things you said about the schools and the communities and all that stuff is true, but like it's kind of fun for us too, right?
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. Yes, those state amateur baseball games were fun. I'll recap New York Mills on Sunday after we get done kind of wrapping up this part conversation. But I mean, it's super fun. And not only that, you get to kind of get in that swing of things. Like I'm covering Wadena Deer Creek volleyball and football this season, and you're doing our games of the week and kind of going around. But either in either scenario, it's fun to be kind of on a beat. You know what I mean? Like for you, it's picking off some games across the region and getting to see everybody and get a feel for how volleyball is going in our greater listening area. And for me, it's getting to be on that beat for Wadena Deer Creek football and volleyball. And by the end of the season, you really know a team and you really know some strengths, weaknesses, and we've talked about this off air all the time it makes our calls better. I mean, like in anything, if you can follow any team all season long, it's just going to make your calls better. I know you did a lot of Parker's Prairie baseball in the playoff run, and from the beginning of the playoff run to the state championship game, it felt like you had a very deep understanding of that team. I'm sure just getting to follow them for even a little bit. And that's the fun part, is getting to get in that routine again, getting to talk with Coach Volkman and Coach Peter Meyer, and getting to know this year's teams are going to be really, really fun. I'm excited. And if you want to make sure you know when our broadcasts are going to be, what stations, what times, we have them up on our website right now, WDenaRadio.com, Superstation K106 mobile app as well. And you can go check it out and see where we're going all across central Minnesota this fall. Tonight, once again, Wadena Deer Creek, East Grand Forks, 7:15 pregame or 7 o'clock pregame, 7:15 first to serve, Section 8 AA volleyball game 1. And I know we'll talk about this later in the week, but you'll have Perham and Wadena Deer Creek, which is the section championship game on Thursday. That should be another fun one. 2 great volleyball games to start off our coverage. That's always the exciting part too.
As a quick aside on all of this, I was going through and I kept all my score sheets from last year, all the games that I did, and that's not something I've ever done. But I did last year for reasons I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure I had a reason to, and I kept the stack on my desk so I could see it every single day. So that way, when every season would end, I'd remember to put those sheets on the stack. But then I didn't remember why I was doing it after like last fall was over. The point is I did 47 games a year ago, or the last school year, which is probably the fewest I've done in my 11 years here. And And it was cool to count that. But if you round up to 50 and multiply times 11, that's 550 games. And I've certainly done more than that because, like I said, 47 is probably the fewest I've done starting here. I mean, we're probably talking about in my career, including probably close to 36 games for when I was in Montana. I'm probably in that 650-ish total games range now for my entire career, give or take probably 50. Pretty cool to kind of reach that milestone, or a very vague milestone. I close in on year 12 in February, in like the beginning of when that winter sports playoffs push starts to begin. It's a lot of games over the years all of a sudden, CJ.
They add up. And yeah, just the opportunity to get to go do those games and to get to be there. And for us, it's cool to hit those milestones. And because you feel like it feels like 50 to 100 games, you just feel an extra step of confidence in your calls, or just command when you have the headset on. And that's always important. I can't tell you how many times whether I was doing games at Bemidji State on campus at the radio station there, or I was doing games here just starting out, like, not that I felt like I did a bad job, but there's just a little bit of deer in the headlights of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I have everything. Am I forgetting something? Am I not doing this right? Whatever. And with each of those milestones, you just get more comfortable talking to coaches, being on the air, handling things and doing whatever. And, I'm going to brag for ourselves, but I think you and I and Tyler and Kyle and Zeke and the whole crew here at Hubbard Radio-Wadena, we do such a really good job of broadcasting high school sports. And I think our broadcasts are really good too. And I hope that comes off on the air. I hope that, like you said, to save that and to go back and count those numbers means you care not only about, just the number, but you care about going to those games and being there and providing that coverage. And I do hope that that shows to people, at least in mine, in my broadcast. And I think it does for everybody else's, but just to show that we're there because we want to be there. Like, we could very easily do limited high school coverage or do one game a week or whatever. We do multiple games a week on multiple stations because we like going out and doing them. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I do love doing them, and it's fun. It's fun to start another year of it. We use the word fun probably a little too loosely, but it is still to this day a favorite part of my job is being able to go out and see all these games and learn who these high school kids are and their parents are, and be a part of it, be a part of that community adjacent.
Right. I got into media and broadcasting because of play-by-play and because I love doing play-by-play so much. And the fact that I can do that as a job and do it around an area that I grew up in and go through my old gym and football fields and baseball fields that I used to play on and be a part of. And it's just a really, really cool feeling. So we hope that you'll invite us into your cars or garages or kitchens or wherever you're going to be listening throughout the 2024-25 school year, because we're going to be like Johnny Cash. We're going to be everywhere, man. You know what I mean? So one last thing.
I've been to Sabika, Monaga, Park Rapids, and Walker, and Parker's Prairie, and Henning, and Battle Lake, and Underwood, and
do our own cover of that song and just a straight up mock of Johnny Cash's music video.
I've been to central Minnesota, man.
I'm everywhere in central Minnesota, man. And then, that we got that taken care of. New York Mills played in the New York Mills Millers played in the state, the second round game of the 2024 Minnesota Baseball Association State Amateur Baseball Tournament. Yep. And Corey, because here's high school sports, I had them on the brain so much. There's a couple times where I was like, no, can't do that. No, different team.
They're not the Eagles.
High school sports on the brain. They're the Millers, and they're the Region 14C champions. Right. And they played
your chest.
They were the champions of the region, and they played the Bemidji Blue Ox, who beat Litchfield 4-2 in Green Isle last weekend.
Green Isle, beautiful Green Isle, home of the Sibley East Wolverines. Well, part of it, and Corey's junior JV high school JV baseball field, and Babe Ruth VFW Little League Grew up on that field, man. Love that field.
A lot of good ball fields down there.
Can I tell you a story about the Green Isle field?
Sure.
In Legion baseball.
Okay.
I was a sophomore and I got in a bat late in the game, and I was pinch hitting for what would have been the 3-hitter, I guess, probably in the order. And no, that's not it. The 5-hitter in the order. So I'm waiting in line. I'm second up in the inning. It's the 6th inning, whatever. I don't know. Some of those details aren't important. But beyond the right center field fence is the school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to first and second grade in that school with Mr. B and Miss Schwartz, and then Mrs. Body. Just for a little extra background, okay? It's called the Yard that in Green Isle, home of the Green Isle Irish, and the guy in front of me, was the senior first baseman, stud, big lefty, and we're watching this new pitcher in, and this new pitcher is thrown. He throws one fastball, and then he throws like 4 straight curveballs, and they are the slowest, meatiest, grossest, like bad. Now, I don't mean gross like, oh my gosh, a Barry Zito curveball. I just mean the fattest, juiciest curveballs you've ever seen in your entire life.
So fat and juicy that it's going to get an infection. Yeah.
He's in the on-deck circle, and he's a stud. And I am just waiting for my pinch hit opportunity. And he throws the 4th curveball in a row. The catcher doesn't move. It just goes right down the heart of the plate. And he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, Tackman, if he throws me that pitch, I'm hitting it off the effing school. And the first pitch, he threw a meatier, fatter, slower curveball than he threw in the warm-ups. And this, Adam Cowell was his name, hit an absolute piss missile halfway up the school. I mean, it ricocheted back into the center fielder didn't move to watch the ball leave or to pick up the ball. It ricocheted all the way back out to him. And I met him at home plate with tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard. And he came around third and he pointed right at me. He goes, I effing told you. I think I struck out.
On the curveball?
Probably.
Unimportant details.
Just crushed it. It was so cool.
That's the closest thing that you'll ever see to Babe Ruth calling a shot.
It was amazing. I've been a part of 2 things like that. I coached Legion ball in town when I first got here. Jake Krause did the exact same thing. He said, if he throws me that curveball, I'm hitting it through the trees. And then he took the curveball for a strike and looked up at me with a smirk on his face. And I just had I was palms up like, what are you doing? That was it. He hit the next pitch, a fastball, even farther.
I was a part of that once. Back when the Bertha Blazers were still active in amateur baseball. Yeah. We were playing, and Patrick Reaver, who is just a phenomenal baseball player, comes up, Division I, UND, comes into the batter's box. It was his first game of the season because it was still early. It was like mid-May. And we were playing on, I believe, I can't remember what it was, if it was Frazee or somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It was basically a high school ball field, so not super deep. And there's a little scoreboard that's over the fence in right center field. And he just comes not right before the at-bat, but just sometime in like the 20-minute vicinity before his first at-bat, just goes, well, haven't hit a home run in a while, and gets in the batter's box. And the first swing is just the absolute missile that bounces off just hits the scoreboard and comes back into play.
Mm-hmm.
All right. There you go.
Now you have.
Yes, you have. And it's fun. It'd be hitting home runs are so fun. I'd love to do it someday. You know what I mean? It's the Michael Scott. Inside jokes are so fun. I'd love to be a part of one someday. That's me with home runs. That'd be great. I love it. Unfortunately, I couldn't even hit a home run off a softball field with baseball. Anyway, besides with the wind blowing out and unlimited attempts. Anyway, I'm more of a slasher. You know what I mean?
I people pitch to contact. I swing to contact. That's what I'm.
I close my eyes and swing.
But the problem for me is when you're also slow, it's not a good combination.
Right. Well, it's like Dan Gladden with the Twins. You know, the old adage was he never had an approach. He just went up to the plate and just swung away.
Yeah.
That's pretty much me. That's
Yeah.
pretty much always been me. Not because I don't try to have a plan, but the second things get weird, just go, and that's why I was never that good at baseball. So
every second of the day.
Here's a perfect plan. The slightest thing goes wrong. Oh well, time to just wing it. Anyway,
out after an embarrassing at bat, and somebody looks at you and go, "What'd you throw you?" And you have to go, "I don't
even know, man." You guess and you say, I don't know, it was like a curve.
Why do you think I'm here right now and not on first base?
Right. But New York Millers, they're full of a bunch of good hitters, and that's why they got to the state tournament. They faced a really good pitcher in Ethan Obsal, who is a draftee of the Blue Ox from the Ada Athletics. He was a former pitcher for the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks. That dude's a veteran. That dude can throw. He's a southpaw. And there's New York Mills is a good lineup. They're a good hitting team.
Mm-hmm.
And they just sometimes you face a good pitcher and it's just their day. And that's what it was. New York Mills played a good game in the field. Their pitchers, whether it was Logan Small, Alex Manival, or their draftee in Nick Lindbergh, who came in to pitch for them, like they pitched a fine game, gave up 3 runs overall. And that's a game, you'll take that 10 times out of 10, giving up 3 runs in a state tournament game, because typically that puts you in position to win. And sometimes you just run up against the guy who you just can't touch. And it's nobody's fault. It's just more of that guy's good and it's his day. He pitched a complete game shutout with 15 strikeouts and didn't give up an extra base hit. He scattered singles, had a couple walks, but overall, just a really, really good. And sometimes you just got to tip your cap to that. It was a great season for New York Mills, and they're going to be back to the state tournament very, very soon. But it's just, it stinks for them to have to go out that way, but it's a state tournament. Everybody's good down there, and sometimes you run into one of those pitchers, especially in single game elimination.
Indeed.
So let's wrap things. And amateur hour comes to a close, by the way, for the season. It was a little weird because I took a hiatus in the early part of the season, but overall, once again, the coaches, players, people I've talked to, they've been great with giving me information. Whenever I ask questions, they're great at helping me out for that. So, and, to Coach Jason Groth of Perham and Josh Hendricks of New York Mills, like they were great with state tournament interviews and giving me information, doing all that stuff. Appreciative of everybody who watched, or I guess listened and read it online and followed along with it and our state tournament broadcast. It was a lot of fun. And now we turn our attention to the high school sports season. There's a couple quick things, Corey, because I know we don't want to go long today. I just want to say this. I'll let you say your piece, and there will be no follow-ups, and we'll just be done with this Twins thing. They're 2-6 in their last 8 games. They're a team who needs to outscore because they have 3 rookie pitchers, essentially, and a bullpen that is just bad outside of their top 3 arms, and maybe really their top 2 arms. They are bad. Everywhere, you cannot trust anybody. Your lineup has to score, and your lineup has to score without 2 of your best players in Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, and you have no idea when either of them are going to be back. You've had some notable contributions, but ultimately, consistently, night in and night out, it's hard to get a solid offensive performance, which again means you put more pressure on your pitching staff. You don't want to throw those young arms deep into games, which means you have to lean on a bullpen that is bad to try and get you through multiple innings of a game. And you can see this domino effect of everything starting to cave in on each other. And things are not going great for this team right now. I say all of that is the glass half empty perspective. I'll give you my glass half full perspective. I'll let you have your piece. And then I have one thing to wrap up the show on. The glass half full perspective is they're still only like 2.5 games out, 3.5 games out of first place.
Yep.
2.5 games out of first place. I know they're in third place in the division, but they're close. They still have 1 series in Kansas City. They have a 4-game series in Cleveland, both of them next month. There still are opportunities. It's not ideal. They could have definitely been in first place had they played better over the last couple of weeks. It's not to excuse it, but it's still August 27th. The finale of the regular season is on September 29th. There still is time. And by the way, they're 5-0. The Red Sox lost yesterday. The Twins are 5.5 games up on Boston for that final wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
So they are, again, they play Boston one more time. So Boston's probably saying the same thing about the Twins, but you are not in a driver's seat, but you are still, despite playing bad over the last couple of weeks, in a good position to make the playoffs And that third playoff spot would get you a series in Houston, best two out of three, all in Houston, which is not ideal. But if you have the second wildcard spot, it's also not ideal because you're playing the AL East runner-up, which could either be the Yankees or the Orioles. Again, both those on the road. Winning the division is the imperative. It's the thing you want to do the most. At the end of the day, get into the playoffs and see what happens. Glass half full perspective, despite everything going wrong, they're still on track to make the playoffs, and the division is still within reach. But in the glass half empty perspective, things do need to turn around quickly, and they're just about to get out of this tough stretch that we talked about in August. They're just about to get out of it. So if they can salvage it and try and get back on at least a 500 pace, they should be in good shape.
So what was true 2 weeks ago or whatever is still true now. This team is still 5 games, give or take, whatever the margin of error is, better than they were a year ago. This is a better record at this point in the season than they had a year ago. A year ago, they were 5-ish games up in the division, give or take. This year, they're 2.5 games back of the division and in third place. So when you look at just the paper clipping of the American League Central standings, it looks significantly worse. When actually, in the most important metric, wins and losses, this is a better team than a year ago. Last night's game notwithstanding, things have been weird for the Twins late in the games, right? They've blown the previous night, not last night, the previous loss was their first loss after holding the lead through 8 complete. They're like 58-1 or 59-1 this year when they've led going into the 9th inning, which is obviously exceptional. But that one loss has come in a time where it's like getting to the 6th inning is not enough for this team to win ball games right now. It's been pretty shaky from the 6th inning on for a lot of different reasons, including holding on to leads and winning ball games. Last night's game was different. Atlanta jumped out early. I think they scored 9 runs in the first 2 innings, ended up winning 10-6. So there's, things just got wonky from the beginning. And when games get wonky from the beginning, every major league ball club, they don't throw in the towel, but whatever their plan was is no longer the plan. You just kind of roll with the punches from that point forward. Obviously, they need to close games out a little better. They need that offense to come along a little bit. I'm not saying anything differently than what you just said, but there's some big picture. They're better than they were a year ago, like record-wise by a fairly significant margin. They've been a little unlucky in that Cleveland just refuses to lose, even though they're losing games now. This is kind of the first time this season Cleveland's starting to lose, but Kansas City's been super hot. You're in the middle of what we talked about 3 weeks ago was going to be the beginning of the probably the toughest 4 weeks of your schedule and a very important 4 weeks of the schedule. Things do lighten up and become a little more sporadic, right? It's not like this is a really big series followed by another big series followed by another big series. Once you get to September, after the Braves, they play Toronto, then they play Tampa, then they play KC, but then they play the Angels and the Reds. Then they play Cleveland, but then they play Boston, and then whatever the series are. Like, it's there's opportunities for them to win some games here down the stretch. And when you are leading in the 6th and in the 7th and in the 8th innings, you got to win those ball games. And probably they will. And probably if you're there, if you're in the lead, you will probably, most teams win those games. But you got to get some runs across the board first.
Right. Exactly. And I had something to get to, but I think we can save it for tomorrow as a kicker, because we've hit the 30-minute mark, but and we got a bunch of stuff to get ready for with high school sports beginning this week. But Corey, morning sports desk, we did it. We're back and in the swing of things. We've made it to the high school sports season, and here we go. We're going to recap the Wadena Deer Creek East Grand Forks game tomorrow. I'm CJ. That's Corey. This has been the morning sports desk for Tuesday, August 27th.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WDenaRadio.com.